Elden Ring is one of the most exciting games of 2022, so I wanted to put together some information for you about what we know about the game so far. So here is 30 Elden Ring details that we know so far. Elden Ring tells the story of the Tarnished, who were banished from the lands between. With the Elden Ring now shattered, you will build your very own Tarnished and set out on a quest for glory to become the Elden Lord. Elden Ring is an epic open-world RPG game releasing February 25th, 2022 for Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. The game is being developed by From Software, the makers of games such as the Dark Souls series, Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. The game is set in the lands between and will be split into 6 main zones. The game map is populated by acquiring map fragments, so players will have to acquire these fragments to be able to see the full picture of the world. Elden Ring is said to be very character-driven and is co-written by Hidetaka Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin. While Martin's focus was more on the lore of the game, such as its origins, its legends, and its characters, Miyazaki helped to create a lot of the in-game text and the character interactions. When entering the world of Elden Ring, it is said that players will be able to choose between 10 different classes. However, only 5 of those classes have been revealed so far. First up is the Bloody Wolf, whose key characteristics are strength, vigor, dexterity, and endurance. We also have the Enchanted Knight, whose strengths involve intelligence, strength, and dexterity. Then there is the Prophet, whose faith is above all other character builds and also has the highest mind rating as well. And then there's the Champion, whose faith, strength, and vigor are their strongest attributes. And finally, there is the Warrior, who excels in dexterity and endurance. Within these different classes, players will also have the option to have either a male or female body type for their character. One of the most exciting features of Elden Ring is the variety of boss battles and unique enemies to fight. During the closed network test, players got to fight some of these unique enemies and bosses. However, the specific classifications of these characters are not yet clear. Of these unique enemies shown in the closed network test was the Stone Digger Troll, the Bloodhound Knight, Pumpkinhead, the Grave Warden, the Tree Sentinel, the Soldier of Godric, the Flying Dragon Agil, and Margit the Fell Omen. And that is just some of the unique enemies that were seen, with the last 2 likely being great foes that we will see in the game, which are more difficult bosses or unique enemies to fight. The game will also feature demigods who control the 6 different regions of the game.
Mighty dragon, thou art a true-born heir. Lend me thy strength, O kindred. Deliver me unto greater heights. Well. Lowly Tarnished. Plain as a lord. I command thee, kneel! I am the Lord of all that is golden.
These bosses were not featured in the closed network test and are the unavoidable bosses of the game when completing the story. These are also the hardest bosses in the game, each possessing a shard of the Elden Ring. Regarding their lore, with these shards they each gain different powers, but due to their corruption they were warped into the creatures that we will fight in the game. Players will need to fight and defeat these 6 different demigods to collect the different shards of the Elden Ring. During the game, quest tracking and exploration is said to be very player-driven. There is no explicit quest system, but players will have the Guidance of Grace. This Guidance of Grace will often appear as a guiding light for players to go in a certain direction, but it's up to the players to decide if they want to follow that specific light. The game will also feature a day and night cycle, which will add an interesting dynamic to the gameplay. Regarding the navigation of the map and the world, players will be able to fast travel using points of grace and stakes of Marika. This will help to save some time if you die or you want to just get closer to a location that you would like to return back to. It is said that these can be activated nearly everywhere but in dungeons, so players will have a lot of freedom in terms of movement around the world. Resting at these checkpoints will refill health, but will also respawn enemies that have been defeated nearby. Players will also be able to navigate on horseback and summon their mount at any time. Players can also use spirit springs while on horseback to leap into the air. These spirit springs will help to increase the verticality of the game and add to the locations that players can explore. There will also be a variety of different dungeon areas that players can explore. One example of these dungeon areas that was shown off was Stormvale Castle. In the video, the player was given the option to follow the recommended path suggested by an in-game character or take a chance with the more risky approach. As we saw in that video and with what has been said by the game developers, they are trying to give players an option to approach the game in different ways depending on their preferred playstyle. As it is a From Software game, the difficulty of the game has to be discussed. Elden Ring has been described as being nearly as difficult as Dark Souls 3, but will be much more accessible to different players as the game will, as we said, provide more ways to approach different tasks. The game's marketing and communications manager explained that Elden Ring was designed for all sorts of players and not just hardened veterans who want a difficult and punishing experience. So for those used to the brutality that From Software games typically employ, that is still there for you. However, the game will also be looking to expand beyond From Software's current player base by giving more players options to complete different tasks. The hope is that this will entice new players to their games, and I for one am very excited about it. Regarding the game's combat, there is said to be over 100 skills for players to develop that are not tied to specific weapons. This gives players more freedom to choose their preferred combat style, whether that be melee focused, range, magic, or stealth. The game is still From Software's traditional, stamina-based melee action, and the game's stealth, stamina, and finishers are said to be similar to their other title, Sekiro. Players' skills can be obtained through Ashes of War, and can be equipped to new weapons to override their default skill. Players can also change the affinity of a weapon to improve the quality or create magic, lightning, or holy weapons. While skills are not stuck to specific weapons per se, you can't use every skill on every weapon. Some require it to be a specific type of weapon for it to work. While also featuring traditional melee combat, the game will also feature different types of magic. Sorceries are a type of magic in Elden Ring and are dependent on the intelligence stat. As such, this will be a go-to for the Enchanted Knight class. One thing about sorceries though is that they require a staff to use them. So if this sounds like something up your alley, then you can definitely channel your inner Gandalf. While sorceries are a type of magic in Elden Ring, incantations are also another type of magic. Incantations are mostly used for offensive attacks, and you will need a sacred seal equipped to use an incantation. During battle, you can also summon spirits to help you. Spirit Ash summons will allow you to summon fallen enemies that you have defeated in combat to aid you in battle. To summon a spirit, you'll first need to find their corresponding spirit caller's ash. Once you have that in your possession, you can use the ash as an item to summon the selected spirit to then aid you in combat. The game will feature both physical and elemental damage to attack your foes, the physical damage being your typical strikes and slashes, while the elemental damage being magic damage, holy damage, lightning, and fire. In terms of weapons, the game will feature both straight swords and great swords, curved swords, daggers, axes, hammers, spears, bows, and staves, as well as likely more. In terms of the length of the game, Miyazaki estimates that the main story will take at least 30 hours to complete. However, given the rich detail of the world, most players will take much more time than that to complete the game. While Elden Ring is promoted as a single-player experience, players will also be able to experience the game with friends, up to 3 others to be exact. While this may not be everything we know about Elden Ring so far, this is some information that I found exciting and interesting, so hope you guys did as well. Let me know your thoughts about Elden Ring down in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, subscribe for future videos, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.